I'm Ed Harlan, and I'm 78 years old this year. Sitting here on this old rocking chair on the porch of my wooden house by Lake Michigan in the suburbs of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, I look at the rippling water under the afternoon sunlight and let out a soft, relieved sigh. My life hasn't always been this peaceful. Back when I was young, I was the kind of guy who always felt like I had to answer everything, had to explain every little decision as if silence was some big sin. God, if I had known earlier that not every question deserves my time, I would have saved so much energy and sleep. Now it's different. I've learned how to let go, how to smile, and let other people's questions blow away with the lake wind. But to get to this day, I paid the price with many years of exhaustion, stress, and long sleepless nights. Back in the 1970s, I worked as a carpenter in a big lumber mill in Milwaukee. Every morning, driving my old pickup truck along the highway, I thought I had to prove everything to my co-workers. They asked why I didn't learn a different trade with higher pay, and I would ramble on for hours about the joy of holding a saw and plane, about the smell of pine wood mixed with sweat. They asked about my plans to buy a house, and I explained in detail every bit I was saving. Damn it, after every shift, I'd come home exhausted, but I still told myself that was the way to earn respect. You know, when we're young, we often think silence is weakness, that we have to defend every choice in front of life. I was wrong. Then, in 1985, I got married, and life got busier with 2 kids. Those long Thanksgiving family gatherings, everyone sitting around the table asking all kinds of questions about my job. Ed, why don't you switch to management instead of holding a saw all day? They asked. Their voices full of concern, but I could sense the unspoken comparison. I answered everything, told them about the houses I helped build, about the joy of seeing customers smile at a solid roof. But afterward, I would often drive home in the dark, gripping the steering wheel tight, my heart full of frustration. Why did I let other people pull me into that whirlwind? It made me snap at my wife and kids for no reason, even though they did nothing wrong. By the 2000s, when I was in my 50s, the pressure only increased. My wife passed away in 2015 from heart disease, and from then on the people around me started probing even more. Not asking directly, but they were very clever about it. The neighbors by the lake asked why I still lived alone in this old house instead of moving to a modern retirement community. I explained that I liked hearing the waves lapping, liked fixing things in the garage in the morning. They nodded, but their eyes still looked like they were judging. Every time that happened, I'd come home feeling drained, like I'd just run a marathon with no finish line. Damn it, old age should be light and easy, not like this. Have you ever felt like other people's questions are sucking the energy right out of you? I have, and it got worse over the years. In 2018, at the local retired carpenters picnic, an old buddy slapped me on the shoulder and asked about my decision to retire early at 62. Ed, aren't you going to work a few more years to be safe? What are you going to live on now? He asked, half joking, half serious. I told him about my health, about wanting time to make wooden woodpeckers to sell to the neighbors. But that night when I got home, I lay awake until morning, my heart pounding. The doctor later said my blood pressure was high from accumulated stress. That's when I started to realize that answering too much was actually hurting myself. I tried to change a little. In 2020, when the pandemic hit, my son from Chicago started calling on video more often. He asked why I didn't find someone to live with, why I was still driving that old pickup truck from the 80s. I answered gently, but inside I felt invaded. Every long call took away another piece of my peace. My daughter in Madison was the same. She worried and asked about my health, about why I rarely joined the senior citizens group activities. I explained that I liked staying home, reading books and fishing alone. But after each time, I felt tired, like I had just carried an invisible mountain of responsibility. Are we really spending too much time worrying about other people's opinions? For me, the answer is clearly yes. I remember in 2022, on a fishing trip with my old buddies by the lake, one old friend asked deeper about how I got through the difficult years after my wife passed. I shared a few details, but it felt like I was exposing old scars. God, why do people think they have the right to know everything? That conversation left me silent the whole drive home, my heart restless. From then on, I started practicing, smiling, changing the subject, or simply saying, "I'm fine." At first it was hard, but gradually I felt an incredible lightness. The pressure from family became clearer and clearer. My son and daughter often mentioned my upcoming 80th birthday party next month. They were planning a big celebration at my daughter's house, inviting the whole extended family. I knew for sure that at that party the questions would pour down like rain. They would ask about my future plans, about why I still kept the old house instead of selling it, about detailed health questions I didn't want to mention. I started worrying, lying awake every night, thinking, my heart heavy. My health was showing signs of decline. Frequent headaches, constant insomnia. The doctor advised reducing stress. But how could I when everyone around me kept wanting to dig into everything? I remember one time in 2010, when I was still working, my old boss asked about a personal project I was doing on the side. I explained too thoroughly, and as a result my idea was taken without any credit. That lesson hurt a lot. From then on I understood that not everything needs to be revealed. But the old habits still clung to me, making me sometimes fall back into the cycle of answering and then regretting it. Now, as I prepare for the birthday party, I wonder what I should do. Should I continue as before, or is it finally time to change? The tension kept building. Every text message from my kids and grandkids made me anxious. They asked about my health and current hobbies first, but I could sense what was underneath. They were worried about me, but their way of worrying made me feel controlled. I drove around the lake trying to find peace, but my mind kept spinning with possible scenarios. My friend, old age is supposed to be for enjoying, so why has it become a burden because of endless questions? I started keeping a journal, writing down what I had learned. The first piece of advice I gave myself was, pay attention to how you feel after answering. Do you feel relieved or even more exhausted? My body always told me. I learned to listen to myself more, not building walls to shut people out, but creating space for myself. Those mornings sitting and fishing, I felt it more clearly than ever. Silence isn't avoidance, it's protection, but the pressure never stopped. My daughter called, her voice worried, asking if I planned to join a senior travel group. I dodged it skillfully, but inside I knew the upcoming party would be a big test. Everyone would gather, wine would flow, old and new stories would mix. I could feel the anxiety rising, like a balloon stretched tight and about to burst. Would I have the strength to stay calm? I remember the 1990s, when the kids were still small, at a parent-teacher meeting at school. The teacher asked about my way of raising the children, and I explained at length about my philosophy of simple living. As a result, I was compared indirectly by some other parents. I went home angry and argued with my wife over small things. Looking back now, I regret letting other people control my emotions so much. That lesson helps me a lot now. The situation got even worse as the party day approached. I cleaned the house, prepared small gifts for the grandkids, but my heart was full of anxiety. Neighbors stopped by to wish me happy birthday early and asked about my plans after the birthday. I smiled, but inside there was a storm. The stress reached its peak. I started having trouble breathing every time I thought about it. This is the moment everything has to change, I told myself. I can't let it continue like this. I drove to my daughter's house in Madison that afternoon. The Wisconsin air was chilly, autumn leaves covering the roads. When I stepped out of the car, the sound of laughter and talking rang out from inside the house. My children and grandchildren ran out to greet me, hugging me tightly. But I knew that behind those smiles were the questions waiting for me. The conversation started lightly with coffee and cakes, but I felt extremely tense, like I was standing on the edge of a cliff. My heart was pounding hard, my hands trembling slightly. Would I be able to stay calm today, or would everything explode? Everyone moved into the large living room, the smell of baked goods wafting from the kitchen. My daughter, Sarah, put her arm around my shoulder and whispered, "Dad, today I invited Uncle Tom from the old workshop too. He said he wanted to congratulate you on your 80th birthday." I nodded, but my stomach twisted. Uncle Tom, my old buddy from the carpentry days back in the 90s, was always the type who liked to dig into things. We sat around the big dining table, glasses of red wine sparkling under the chandelier. My youngest grandson ran around telling stories about school, and then suddenly all eyes turned to me. "Mr. Ed, are you still doing okay? Why don't you travel like your other friends your age?" a distant relative asked. Her voice sweet, but I could clearly hear what was underneath. I smiled, took a sip of wine, and tried to keep my voice calm. "Yeah, I prefer staying at home, kids. Lake Michigan is still very beautiful." But the short answer wasn't enough. Uncle Tom jumped in, his voice booming like always. "Ed, you retired so early. What are you living on now? Do you still have savings? I heard you sell some handmade wooden stuff. Is it enough?" God, that question cut like a knife. Back in 2012, I had once told him all the details about my budget during a drinking session, and now he was using it to compare. I felt the blood rush to my face, but instead of rambling on like before, I just shrugged. "I'm fine, Tom. Enough to eat and wear. What more do I need?" No further explanation. No mentioning my small pension or the custom wood orders I made in the garage. The tension kept rising. My son Mike, who flew in from Chicago, sat next to me and patted my shoulder. "Dad, I'm really worried about you. Why don't you sell the old house by the lake? It's too big for you alone. Move to the city closer to me and Sarah. What do you think?" I looked at my son, remembering 2008 when my wife was still alive, how we had argued about the same thing. Back then I explained for hours, defending my decision to stay in the old house because of the memories. Now, it was different. I took a deep breath, feeling like the whole room was holding its breath, waiting for me to open up. My heart was pounding, cold sweat running down my spine. This was the worst moment. All the pressure accumulated over the years about to burst. Then the climax came, right in the middle of the main course. Uncle Tom, after 2 glasses of wine, leaned across the table, his voice half joking, half serious. "Ed, tell me the truth. After she passed, do you have any regrets? Why haven't you found someone else? Life is long. Isn't it lonely being alone? Tell me, what do you regret the most?" The whole table fell silent. Sarah tried to interrupt. "Uncle Tom, come on." But everyone's eyes were fixed on me. That question struck straight at the deepest scar. Back in 2016, right after my wife's funeral, I had cried to Mike and told him all my pain. The nights I stayed awake blaming myself for not taking her to the doctor sooner. Now they wanted to dig it all up again, to satisfy their curiosity, to compare, to advise me. I felt stripped bare, all my energy drained. My hand gripped the wine glass so tight my knuckles turned white. This was the biggest conflict, the most important decision I had to make right at that moment. I didn't rush. I set the glass down, looked straight into Uncle Tom's eyes, my voice low but firm. "Tom, I've lived my life the best way I could. There's nothing I regret that I need to recount. And I like being alone, peaceful by the lake." That was it. No long explanations. I didn't tell them about the mornings I sat by my wife's grave, didn't talk about the loneliness I had learned to embrace instead of running from. No defending, no justifying. The room was silent for 1 second, then 2. Uncle Tom blinked, smiled awkwardly. Sarah breathed a sigh of relief. Mike nodded as if he understood something. I felt it clearly. An invisible boundary had just been drawn. And strangely, instead of exploding, everything calmed down. No one pushed anymore. The conversation shifted to the Brewers baseball team, then to my grandson's college stories. I sat there, my heart still beating fast, but my mind incredibly light. God, it turned out letting go was that simple. The cooling down started right after that. The party continued, but the atmosphere was completely different. People still asked questions, but more gently, as if respecting the boundary I had just set. My oldest granddaughter leaned in and asked quietly, "Grandpa, are you tired?" I smiled sincerely. "Not tired at all, sweetheart." I shared a few fun stories about fixing up the old house in 1995, when the whole family painted the walls together, but I didn't go deep into the emotions. Mike later pulled me out to the back porch. The cool Lake Michigan wind blew. "Dad, I get it now. I'm sorry for pushing you so much. I patted my son on the shoulder. It's okay, son. I'm just learning how to protect my energy. We stood there, watching the autumn leaves fall, without needing to say much more. I felt peace spreading, as if the heavy burden of many years had finally been lifted. When I got back to my house by the lake after the party, I sat on my familiar rocking chair. It was completely dark. Lights from the neighbors' windows glowed in the distance. I thought back over the entire journey. Back when I was young, in 1975, I was only 27, working at the lumber mill, always feeling like I had to answer every question from my boss, my friends, even strangers on the street. "Ed, why don't you get married early?" they asked, and I would ramble on about my dream of building my own house. Now remembering it, I just want to laugh. For so many years, I let other people direct my life, from financial matters in 1989 when I borrowed from the bank to buy the truck, to raising the children in the 2000s. Every time I answered, I lost a piece of my peace. But today, at 80 years old, I finally learned. The biggest lesson I learned is, you don't owe anyone a full explanation about your life. Pay attention to how you feel after speaking. If answering leaves you exhausted, stop right there. Your body tells you everything. I used to think silence was selfish, but actually it's a way to love yourself. And you know what? When you stop answering questions that don't deserve it, people will respect you more. They learn not to cross your boundaries. I advise all of you, no matter what age you are, start practicing today. Be selective about what you share. Don't let other people's curiosity wear down your energy. I remember one time in 2003, when my daughter was still in high school, the teacher called me to school to ask about how I taught my child to study. I explained in detail, even mentioning the times I argued with my wife about grades. The result? The teacher told other parents, and I was compared all summer long. It hurt a lot. Now I understand, not every misunderstanding needs to be corrected. Let people think whatever they want. Your peace is more important than their approval. Have you ever felt tired from having to justify your own choices? I have, and I believe many people have too. In the days after my birthday, my life changed noticeably. My son called less often, but each time was gentler, without deep probing. Neighbors still came by, but they talked more about their own lives and asked me less. I spent my time fixing up my old wooden boat, fishing in the mornings, reading books about Milwaukee's history in the 60s. My health improved significantly, my blood pressure stabilized, and I slept better. I realized that this quiet freedom is the gift old age brings. It's not about controlling others, but controlling your own reactions. Every time someone asks about private matters, I just smile and change the subject. It's that simple. I also learned that comparison is the most toxic thing. Back in 2019, my group of old friends would often brag about their successful children, trips to Europe, then turn to me, "Ed, what about you?" I used to try to tell them about my local fishing trips to compete, but now I don't. My journey is my own. It doesn't need to be like anyone else's. Have you ever wondered why you pay so much attention to other people's achievements? Stop. Because life is short. Don't waste time on that game. Then there are questions about the future, even at this age. My grandson asked, "Grandpa, what are you going to do next? Do you have any big plans?" I used to feel pressure to make progress, as if sitting still was failure. But now I answer, "Grandson, I just want to enjoy each day. Take walks, fix things, listen to the waves. That's enough. No need to prove your worth through productivity. There is great value in simply existing." That's the lesson I want to pass on to young people. Don't wait until you're old to learn how to let go. I started writing in my journal more, recording the peaceful moments, like this afternoon, sitting here looking at Lake Michigan rippling under the late autumn sun. I'm grateful that life has given me this chance to learn, even if it came late. It wasn't the world that changed, but the way I look at it. I listen to people, but I don't carry it home with me. I care more deeply, but worry less about the noise. And the wonderful thing is, when you choose silence at the right time, You can hear your own heart more clearly than ever. I remember one time in 1987, when my wife was pregnant with Mike, the whole extended family asked all kinds of questions about our birth plans. I told them everything, from which hospital to the baby's name. Afterward, they gossiped and compared it to their own children. I was incredibly exhausted. Thinking back now, I just want to tell myself back then, Ed, you don't need to tell them everything. If I had known earlier, life would have been different. But better late than never. Now I live that way, and it's wonderful. The people who used to pressure me have also changed. Uncle Tom called the next day, his voice awkward as he apologized for asking too much. I laughed. It's okay, old friend. Next time, let's just drink beer. No digging into things. We laughed loudly. Everything became lighter. I realized that boundaries aren't walls, but personal space. You reserve it for your health, for quiet joy, for the people who truly respect you. And perhaps the most important thing, silence is power. It's a choice. When you don't answer questions that aren't worth it, you're shaping your own life. I no longer replay conversations in my head, no longer worry about what I should have said. My mind is calm. That's the kind of peace I didn't know when I was young. Back then, everything felt personal. Every question demanded a piece of me. Now it's different. Many questions come from the other person's own insecurities and have nothing to do with me. Have you ever wondered how you would feel if you stopped answering everything? Try it. You'll be surprised at how much relief you feel. I tried it, and it changed everything. In the end, my life now is mine. I've lived it fully, learned a lot, and that's enough. I no longer need anyone to understand everything. I just need to live according to my own rhythm. And if this story touches you, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever been in a similar situation? Like if you found it helpful. And subscribe to get more real stories from old age life. I'll see you again soon. Take care of your health and learn how not to worry about things that aren't worth it.